The alarm sounded throughout the USS Defiant, its sharp tone cutting through the usual hum of the ship's systems. Captain Laura Bennett sat up in her quarters, sleep vanishing instantly from her mind. She had been expecting this call, though not quite so soon. "Captain, to the bridge," the voice of Communications Officer Zoe Miller announced over the speakers. Laura pulled on her uniform quickly. The dark blue fabric with silver trim marked her as one of only 12 captains in Earth's small but growing space fleet. As she fastened the last button, she caught her reflection in the small mirror on her wall. Brown hair pulled back in a tight bun, dark circles under her eyes, testimony to too many late nights reviewing technical specs. The corridors of the Defiant were a flurry of controlled activity as crew members rushed to their stations. Everyone knew what the alarm meant. The enemy had been detected. Laura entered the bridge, and the bustling activity paused just long enough for Navigation Officer Kyle Rivera to announce, "Captain on deck." "Status report," Laura said, settling into the command chair at the center of the circular bridge. Kyle turned to his console, his fingers moving across the glowing display. Long-range sensors detected the Krell fleet crossing the outer marker. "They'll reach Saturn's orbit in 48 hours, Earth in 72. Laura nodded, her face betraying no emotion despite the gravity of the news. The Krell had appeared 3 years ago, an alien race with technology far superior to anything Earth or its allies possessed. No one knew why they attacked. All attempts at communication had failed. What was clear was their intention: total conquest or destruction of all who stood in their way. "How many ships?" Laura asked, though she dreaded the answer. "Weapons specialist." Olivia Ward looked up from her station, her red hair contrasting sharply with the blue glow of her screens. 217 vessels, Captain. Mostly destroyer class with 36 carrier ships. Laura felt her stomach tighten. The United Earth Defense Force had 11 combat-ready ships. The Defiant would make 12, but it wasn't supposed to launch for another 6 months. The ship was finished, but many of its revolutionary systems remained untested outside of simulations. The main view screen flickered, and Admiral William Carter's face appeared, his weathered features and gray. Hair reflected decades of military service, but Laura had never seen him look so tired.
"Captain Bennett," he said, his voice steady despite the circumstances. "I'm sure you're aware of the situation." "Yes, Admiral." "The Krell fleet has been detected." Carter nodded grimly. "The Galactic Confederation is assembling what remains of
their fleet, but after the battle at Proxima Centauri, they don't have much left. Best estimate puts their arrival at 4 days from now." The implication hung in the air. The Krell would reach Earth before help arrived. "The Defiant is being activated ahead of schedule," Carter continued. "We have no choice. Earth's other ships are being deployed to evacuate as many civilians as possible to the Mars and Luna colonies." Laura leaned forward. "Sir, the Defiant's systems are still largely untested. The quantum drive works, but the displacement cannons have never been fired outside of the lab. And the adaptive shield matrix is—" "I know, Captain," Carter interrupted. "Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't dream of sending you out. But these aren't normal circumstances. The Defiant is the only ship we have with technology that might stand a chance against the Krell." Laura glanced around the bridge. Each crew member had been handpicked for this mission, the best minds Earth had to offer. They had spent the last 3 years developing and installing the Defiant's unique systems. If anyone could make this work, it was them. "What are your orders, sir?" Laura asked, already knowing the answer. "Intercept the Krell fleet at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, delay them. Damage them if possible. Buy Earth time until the Confederation arrives." Carter's expression softened slightly. "I don't need to tell you what's at stake, Laura." "No, sir." "You don't. Good luck, Captain. Earth is counting on you." The screen went dark. For a moment, silence filled the bridge. Then Laura stood facing her crew. "You all heard the Admiral. I know the Defiant isn't ready. I know we aren't ready. But we're what Earth has." She took a deep breath. "I won't order anyone to come on this mission. If you want to stay behind to be with your families, no one will think less of you." Chief Engineer Daniel Powell spoke up from his station. "With respect, Captain, we built this ship. We know her better than anyone. If she's going into battle, we're going with her. Murmurs of agreement spread across the bridge. No one moved to leave. Laura felt a surge of pride. Very well. Mr. Rivera, plot a course to intercept the Krell fleet at the Kuiper Belt. Mr. Powell, I want the drive at full capacity. Ms. Ward, run final checks on all weapon systems. Ms. Miller, send a message to all decks. Prepare for immediate departure. The bridge erupted into activity as each officer turned to their tasks. Laura returned to her chair, pulling up the ship schematics on her personal display. The Defiant was Earth's most advanced vessel, designed specifically to counter the Krell's technological advantages. Its quantum drive allowed it to cover vast distances in a fraction of the time of conventional engines. The adaptive shield matrix could theoretically absorb energy from enemy weapons and redistribute it to strengthen vulnerable areas. And the displacement cannons, they were the real gamble. Designed to disrupt the Krell hive mind coordination, they fired bursts of quantum-entangled particles that could theoretically throw their entire fleet into disarray. But they had never been tested against actual Krell ships. Engineering reports ready, Captain. Daniel's voice came through the, "Come on." Drive is operational. Weapon systems online, Olivia reported. Displacement cannons at 92% calibration. That's as good as they'll get without field testing. Departure clearance received from Earth Command, Zoe added. All decks report. Ready. Laura closed the schematics and looked at the main view screen, now showing the vast blackness of space beyond Earth's orbit. Somewhere out there, the Krell fleet was approaching, unaware that a single Earth ship was about to challenge them. Mr. Rivera, Laura said, her voice steady and clear. Take us out. The Defiant's engines hummed to life, the deck vibrating slightly beneath their feet. Outside, the massive docking clamps released and the star field began to shift as the ship moved forward. Laura thought of Earth below them, billions of people going about their daily lives, most still unaware of the approaching threat, parents taking children to school, workers rushing to jobs, lovers meeting in parks, all of it threatened by what was coming. Set course for the Kuiper Belt, she ordered. Maximum speed. The stars on the view screen blurred as the quantum drive engaged, propelling the Defiant toward what might well be a one-way mission. One ship against a fleet of hundreds. The USS Defiant moved through space faster than any Earth ship had traveled before. The quantum drive hummed with power, bending the rules of physics in ways that scientists had only dreamed of a decade ago. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Daniel Powell moved between control stations, checking readings and making small adjustments. How's she holding up? Asked Junior Engineer Frank Coleman, wiping sweat from his forehead. Daniel smiled slightly, patting the metal wall of the engine room. Better than expected. The quantum field is stable at 97%. We might even be able to push her a bit harder if needed. The intercom crackled. Engineering, this is the captain. Daniel pressed the communication button. Powell here, Captain. How's our drive looking, Daniel? Any concerns? Laura Bennett's voice was calm, but he could hear the underlying tension. She's running smoothly, Captain. Whatever happens when we reach the Krell, it won't be the drive that lets us down. Good. We'll reach the intercept point in 4 hours. I want you to run a full diagnostic on the adaptive shield matrix. If we take hits, those shields will be the only thing keeping us alive. Already on it, Captain. Powell out. Daniel turned to his team of engineers. You heard the captain. Frank, check the energy redistribution pathways. Samantha, verify the matrix response algorithms. George, monitor the power regulators. I want this shield system working better than it did in any simulation. As his team scattered to their tasks, Daniel pulled up the schematics for the displacement cannons. These weapons were the real wild card, designed to disrupt the Krell hive mind by firing bursts of quantum-entangled particles. In theory, they would create confusion among the perfectly coordinated Krell fleet. In practice, no one knew. On the bridge, Laura studied the tactical display. The Krell fleet appeared as a mass of red dots moving steadily toward the Sol system. Their formation was perfect, too perfect to be anything but the result of a shared consciousness. Intelligence suggested the Krell operated as a hive mind during combat, each ship an extension of a centralized intelligence. Any changes in their course or speed? Laura asked. Navigation Officer Kyle Rivera shook his head. No, Captain. They're maintaining their current vector and velocity. At this rate, they'll reach Earth in 67 hours. And we'll intercept them in 4, Laura murmured. Weapons Specialist Olivia Ward looked up from her station. Captain, I've completed the targeting simulations for the displacement cannons. They're as ready as they'll ever be. Laura nodded. Good work, Olivia. Communications Officer Zoe Miller removed her headset. Captain, I've been analyzing the Krell communications. There's something odd. What is it? Their signals increased by 300% in the last hour. They're talking to each other much more than usual. Laura frowned. Could they have detected us? Possible, but unlikely at this distance. It's almost like... Zoe hesitated. Like they're excited about something. The thought sent a chill down Laura's spine. The Krell had destroyed 3 Confederation fleets in the past year. The only survivors reported that the alien ships seemed to enjoy the slaughter. Keep monitoring their communications, Zoe. I want to know if anything changes. Laura left the bridge and headed to the mess hall. The crew needed to see her, to know that their captain believed in this mission. As she entered, conversations quieted briefly before resuming at a slightly higher pitch. Everyone was on edge. She grabbed a coffee and sat beside Medical Officer Nathan Cox, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and steady hands. How's the crew holding up, Doc? She asked quietly. Nathan sipped his tea. Physically, they're fine. Mentally, they're scared, Laura. We all are. But they're also determined. No one here wants to let Earth down. And you? How are you holding up? Nathan smiled sadly. I've prepared sickbay as best I can, but if things go badly... We all knew the risks when we signed up, Laura said. True, but we expected to have another 6 months of preparation. Laura couldn't argue with that. The Defiant was supposed to undergo extensive testing before any combat mission. Now they were heading into the fight of their lives with systems that were largely theoretical. The ship-wide intercom activated with Kyle's voice. Captain to the bridge. Repeat, Captain to the bridge. Laura set down her half-finished coffee and hurried back to the command center. Report, she said as she entered. The Krell fleet has changed formation, Kyle said, pointing to the tactical display. The mass of red dots had shifted, with a small group breaking away from the main body. They've detected us, Olivia confirmed. A scout group of 10 ships has altered course to intercept. Laura settled into the command chair. Time to intercept? 43 minutes, Kyle answered. Laura took a deep breath. This was happening sooner than expected, but it didn't change the mission. Battle stations, sound general quarters. Throughout the ship, alarms sounded. Crew members rushed to their positions. In engineering, Daniel and his team prepared the shields and weapon systems. In sickbay, Nathan readied his medical equipment. In the mess hall, off-duty personnel hurried to secure stations or assist where needed. Open a ship-wide channel, Laura ordered. Zoe nodded. Channel open, Captain. Laura squared her shoulders. This is the captain speaking. In approximately 40 minutes, we will engage an advance force of Krell vessels. This will be our first real test, and I won't lie to you. It will be dangerous. The Defiant carries technology no Krell ship has ever faced. We have the element of surprise on our side. She paused. Each of you was chosen for this mission because you're the best Earth has to offer. I have complete faith in your abilities and in this ship. Together, we're going to show the Krell that humanity isn't as easy a target as they thought. Ben it out. As the communication ended, Laura turned to her bridge officers. Olivia, prepare the displacement cannons. Target the lead Krell vessel. Kyle, maintain our course but be ready for evasive maneuvers. Zoe, continue monitoring their communications. I want to know if our presence changes their behavior. On the view screen, the stars streaked by as the Defiant raced toward its first battle. The ship was quiet except for the hum of systems and the occasional report from various stations. Captain, Zoe said suddenly. Krell communications just spiked, again. They're definitely talking about us. Can you translate any of it? Zoe shook her head. Their language isn't in our databases, but the pattern suggests confusion. I think they're surprised to see only one ship. Laura smiled grimly. Good, let them underestimate us. She tapped her console. Engineering status report. Shields at full capacity, Captain, Daniel replied. Displacement cannons charged and ready, all systems green. 10 minutes to intercept, Kyle announced. Laura looked at the tactical display. One more time. 10 Krell ships against one Earth vessel. Terrible odds by any standard. But if they could damage the scouts badly enough, it might make the main fleet hesitate. This is what we trained for, she told her bridge crew. This is why the Defiant was built. Let's show them what one Earthship can do. The first Krell vessels appeared on the view screen, their sleek black hulls absorbing the light of distant stars. They moved in perfect formation, their synchronized maneuvers betraying the hive mind that controlled them. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The 10 Krell ships approached in perfect formation, their black hulls gleaming under the distant sun. On the bridge of the USS Defiant, Captain Laura Bennett watched them with a calm she didn't entirely feel. Range to Krell vessels? She asked. 300,000 kilometers in closing, Kyle Rivera replied from the navigation station. They'll be in weapons range in 2 minutes. Laura nodded. Olivia, target the lead ship with displacement cannons. Daniel, how are the shields? Chief Engineer Daniel Powell's voice came through the comm system. Adaptive matrix is online and stable, Captain. We're as ready as we'll ever be. All hands brace for combat, Laura announced shipwide. She turned to Communications Officer, Zoe Miller. Any changes in their communications? Zoe adjusted her headset. They're still communicating heavily, but the pattern has changed. It's more structured now, almost like they're receiving instructions from the main fleet, Laura guessed. The hive mind is telling them how to deal with us. On the view screen, the Krell ships suddenly shifted position, spreading out to form a half circle. They were trying to surround the Defiant. Evasive pattern delta, Laura ordered. Keep them from flanking us. Kyle's fingers danced across his console, and the Defiant responded smoothly, changing course to prevent encirclement. Krell ships are powering weapons, Olivia warned. Energy signatures suggest they're preparing to fire. Laura gripped her chair. Raise shields. Prepare to... The ship rocked violently as the first volley of Krell weapons fire struck the Defiant's shields. The lights flickered briefly. Shields holding at 82%, Olivia reported. The adaptive matrix is redistributing energy, but those hits were stronger than our simulations predicted. Return fire, Laura commanded. Let's see what our displacement cannons can do. Olivia pressed the firing controls. There was no visible beam or projectile from the Defiant, but the effect on the targeted Krell ship was immediate. It began to drift out of formation, its movements suddenly erratic. Direct hit, Olivia exclaimed. The quantum particles are disrupting their ship's systems. Their weapons are offline. Laura allowed herself a small smile. Target the next ship. Fire when ready. The Defiant shuddered again as more Krell weapons found their mark. Shields at 74%, Olivia reported. They're adjusting their attack pattern. The remaining 9 Krell ships were indeed changing tactics, moving in a less coordinated fashion. The displacement cannon had not only affected the targeted ship, but seemed to have created confusion in the hive mind. Fire again, Laura ordered. Keep targeting their lead vessels. The Defiant's cannons fired twice more in quick succession, disabling 2 more Krell ships, but the aliens were learning, adapting to the unexpected weapon. They're changing frequencies, Zoe reported urgently. Their communication pattern is shifting. I think they're trying to isolate the affected ships from the hive mind. The remaining Krell vessels fired simultaneously, their weapons concentrated on a single point of the Defiant's shields. The ship lurched violently, throwing crew members against their stations. Warning alarms blared throughout the bridge. Shields. Down to 41% in Sector 3, Olivia shouted over the noise. They found a weakness in the matrix. Reroute power, Laura ordered. Daniel, we need those shields stabilized. Working on it, Captain. Daniel's voice was strained. Redirecting power from non-essential systems. The Krell fired again, striking the same vulnerable area. The deck plates beneath Laura's feet vibrated with the impact. Shields at 27% in Sector 3, Olivia reported grimly. One more hit like that and they'll breach. Laura made a quick decision. Bring us about. Present our strongest shield sector to their weapons. Kyle, prepare to execute maneuver Baker 7 on my mark. Kyle nodded, his expression tense but focused. The Krell ships regrouped, preparing for another coordinated attack. 7 vessels remained operational, still dangerous despite the Defiant's successful strikes. They're firing, Olivia warned. Mark, Laura commanded. The Defiant suddenly dropped downward in space, then accelerated at a sharp angle, narrowly avoiding the worst of the Krell attack. Only glancing blows struck the shields. Shields holding, Olivia reported. Minimal damage. Position. For counterattack, Laura ordered. Target the ship at coordinates 227 Mark 43. The Defiant swung around, bringing its weapons to bear on the specified Krell vessel. Fire. The displacement cannon released another burst of quantum particles. The targeted Krell ship spun wildly, colliding with another vessel nearby. Both ships' hulls cracked under the impact, venting atmosphere and debris into space. 2 more. Down, Olivia confirmed. 5 enemy ships remaining. Laura was about to order another attack when Zoe straightened suddenly at her station. Captain, I'm detecting a massive increase in Krell communications. The main fleet has changed course. Laura turned to her. Show me. On the tactical display, the large mass of red dots representing the main Krell fleet had altered trajectory. They were now heading directly toward the Defiant's position. They're coming for us, Laura said softly. Our attack on the scouts got their attention. Captain, Kyle's voice was tense. The main Krell fleet will reach our position in 43 minutes at their current speed. Laura nodded. That's good. It means they're not heading for Earth. She tapped her comm button. Daniel, status report on the drive and weapons. Quantum drive is still at optimal levels, Daniel replied. Displacement cannons are functional, but the emitters are showing signs of stress. I don't know how many more shots they can handle before requiring maintenance. Laura considered their options. The mission was to delay the Krell to buy Earth time. They had succeeded in drawing the main fleet away from its direct course to Earth, but 5 scout ships remained, and hundreds more were on the way. Olivia, target 2 more scouts. Fire when ready. The displacement cannons fired again, disabling 1 ship completely. The other took damage but remained operational. 4 enemy vessels remaining, Olivia reported. Cannons are overheating, Captain. We need to let them cool before firing again. Laura nodded. Maintain defensive posture. Kyle, plot a course that will keep us ahead of the main fleet while dealing with these scouts. Aye, Captain. The remaining. Krell scouts regrouped and approached cautiously, having learned respect for the Earthship's unusual weapons. They're taking their time now, Zoe observed. I think they're waiting for reinforcements. Then we need to finish this before they arrive, Laura said. Daniel, how soon can we fire the cannons again? 3 minutes minimum, Captain, Daniel replied. Any sooner and we risk burning out the emitters completely. Laura drummed her fingers on her armrest, thinking. Olivia, what conventional weapons? Do we have that could be effective? The pulse torpedoes might penetrate their shields if we can get close enough, Olivia suggested. They weren't designed for the Krell specifically, but they pack a punch. Kyle, bring us within torpedo range of the nearest scout. Evasive patterns the whole way. The Defiant surged forward, weaving through space as it approached one of the remaining Krell vessels. The alien ship fired repeatedly, but the Defiant's erratic course made it difficult to land a solid hit. Torpedoes locked, Olivia announced when they were in range. Fire. 2 bright pulses of energy shot from the Defiant, striking the Krell ship's forward section. The alien vessel's shields flared briefly, then collapsed. The torpedoes detonated, tearing through the hull. Direct hit, Olivia confirmed. Target destroyed. 3 Krell ships remained, and they were no longer advancing. Instead, they held position, continuing to fire but making no attempt to close with the Defiant. They're stalling, Laura realized. Keeping us busy until the main fleet arrives. On The tactical display, the mass of red dots drew steadily closer. Hundreds of Krell ships against one Earth vessel. "Captain," Zoe said suddenly, "I'm receiving a transmission from Earth Command." "Put it through," Laura ordered. Admiral William Carter's face appeared on the screen. "Captain Bennett, our sensors show you've engaged the Krell advance force." "Yes, sir. We've destroyed or disabled 7 of their scout ships. The main fleet has changed course to intercept us." Carter nodded, looking impressed despite himself. "You've done better than anyone expected, Captain. But there's a change of plans. We need you to implement Protocol Hydra." Laura's eyes widened slightly. Protocol Hydra was considered a last resort, a desperate gamble that might save Earth, but a tremendous risk to the Defiant and her crew. "Understood, Admiral. We'll begin preparations immediately." As the transmission ended, Laura looked at her bridge officers. "You heard the Admiral. Prepare for Protocol Hydra. The fate of Earth now rested on their most desperate plan. Protocol Hydra." The words hung in the air of the Defiant's bridge like a physical presence. Every officer there knew what it meant. It was the riskiest plan Earth's scientists had developed, classified at the highest level. "Secure Channel 2. All senior officers," Laura ordered. "Have them report to the tactical room immediately." 5 minutes later, Laura stood before her top officers in the small conference room adjacent to the bridge. Chief Engineer Daniel Powell, Weapons Specialist Olivia Ward, Navigation Officer Kyle Rivera, Communications Officer Zoe Miller, and Medical Officer Nathan Cox looked at her with a mixture of determination and concern. "Protocol Hydra has been authorized," Laura said simply. "We have 35 minutes before the main Krell fleet arrives." Daniel leaned forward. "Captain, the quantum buoys aren't fully tested. The simulations showed only a 62% success rate." "I'm aware of the risks," Laura replied. "But Earth Command believes this is our best chance. The Confederation fleet won't arrive for another 3 days. If we don't stop the Krell here, Earth will fall." She turned to a screen on the wall, showing a tactical display of their current position. "The plan is simple in concept, complex in execution. We will deploy 30 quantum network buoys in a sphere around our position. When activated, they will create an interlaced field of quantum entanglement. With the Defiant at the center," Olivia added, "causing our ship to exist in multiple states simultaneously." Laura nodded. "In theory, the Krell will see hundreds of identical Defiant ships, each one indistinguishable from the real one at the quantum level." Nathan frowned. "The medical risks to the crew have been calculated," Laura finished for him. "Yes, there's a chance of neural disruption due to quantum field exposure, but the alternative is certain destruction when the Krell fleet arrives." She looked at each officer in turn. "I need your full commitment. This only works if every system operates in perfect synchronization." No one hesitated. "We're with you, Captain." Daniel spoke for all of them. "Good. Return to your stations. Daniel, start preparing the buoys for deployment. Olivia, recalibrate the displacement cannons to sync with the quantum network. I want everything ready in 20 minutes. As the officers filed out, Laura caught Daniel's arm. "The real question is whether the emitters will hold. We need to fire from multiple projections simultaneously." Daniel's expression was grim. "I'll reinforce them as best I can, but they weren't designed for this kind of stress. We might get 1 synchronized volley, maybe 2 before they burn out completely. Then we make them count." Dismissed. Back on the bridge, activity had reached a fever pitch as the crew prepared for Protocol Hydra. The 3 remaining Krell scout ships maintained their distance, occasionally firing but clearly waiting for the main fleet. "Status of the buoys?" Laura asked as Daniel returned to engineering. "Ready for deployment," he replied through the comm. "We've loaded all 30 into the launch tubes." Laura nodded. "Deploy when ready." Throughout the ship, launch tubes opened, sending small unmanned devices speeding away from the Defiant. Each buoy contained a miniature version of the ship's quantum drive technology, allowing it to reach its designated position quickly. "Buoys deployed," Daniel reported, reaching positions in 40 seconds. On the tactical display, small blue, Dots spread outward from the Defiant's position, forming a rough sphere. Krell scout ships are moving, Olivia warned. They're trying to intercept the buoys. Ignore them, Laura ordered. Focus on preparing the network. Kyle, keep us centered in the formation. The Defiant rocked as enemy fire struck their shields. Shields at 65%, Olivia reported. They're getting more accurate. Buoys in position, Daniel announced. Ready to activate the quantum network on your command. Laura took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. Begin activation sequence. Throughout the ship, crew members felt a strange sensation, like a vibration that passed through their bodies rather than around them. On the bridge, the air seemed to shimmer briefly. Quantum field initializing, Daniel's voice sounded slightly distorted. Network stability at 74% and holding. On the view screen, the space around the Defiant appeared to ripple, as if the fabric of reality itself was being stretched. Execute Protocol Hydra, Laura commanded. Daniel entered the final sequence. For a brief moment, everything on the ship seemed to freeze. Then reality fragmented. From the perspective of the Krell, where there had been one Earthship, there were now hundreds, each one identical, each one seemingly solid and real. The quantum network didn't create illusions or holograms. It placed the Defiant in a state of quantum superposition, allowing it to exist in multiple places simultaneously. Quantum projection successful, Daniel reported, his voice filled with awe despite the technical understanding of what they'd achieved. We're reading 342 stable projections. Laura could hardly believe it had worked. Status of the displacement cannons? Synchronized and ready, Olivia confirmed. All projections are armed. What about the Krell scouts? Laura asked. Zoe listened intently to her headset. Their communications just exploded, Captain. The pattern suggests extreme confusion. I think they're seeing what we want them to see. Hundreds of Defiant ships where there was only one. Laura allowed herself a brief smile. And the main fleet? 20 minutes out, Kyle reported. But they've reduced speed. I think they're trying to make sense of the sensor readings. Good, Laura said. That gives us time to finish these scouts. Target all 3 remaining vessels. Fire when ready. Firing, Olivia announced. The effect was spectacular. Every projection of the Defiant fired its displacement cannons simultaneously at the 3 Krell scouts. The quantum particles converged from multiple directions, overwhelming the alien vessels completely. Within seconds, all 3 ships drifted. Powerless, their systems thoroughly disrupted. Scouts neutralized, Olivia reported, her voice triumphant. The victory was short-lived. On the tactical display, the massive red dots representing the main Krell fleet continued to approach. They're still coming, Kyle said. Slower, but they haven't turned back. Laura had expected this. Of course not. They're curious now. They want to understand how one Earthship suddenly became hundreds. Captain, Zoe called out, I'm detecting a massive increase in Krell communications. Their pattern suggests they're preparing for a major attack. Laura nodded. They've decided to overwhelm us with numbers. How many ships in the main fleet? Kyle, 204, Captain. Against our 342 projections, Laura mused. Good odds if the projections were real ships with full capabilities, but they weren't. Each projection could fire weapons, but the real Defiant was the source of their power. Any damage to the actual ship would affect all projections. Captain, Daniel's voice came through the comm, tense with concern. The quantum network is placing enormous strain on our systems. Power consumption is off the charts. We can maintain the projections for maybe 20 more minutes before we risk a complete core shutdown. Laura understood. They had created the appearance of a fleet, bought precious time, and confused the enemy. But they couldn't hold this state indefinitely. Daniel, how many more shots can the displacement cannons manage through the quantum network? There was a pause as Daniel checked his readings. 1 full volley for sure. Maybe 2 if we're lucky. After that, the emitters will burn out completely. Laura made her decision. We're going to hit them with everything we have. One massive strike to their center mass when they get within optimum range. She turned to her bridge crew. This is our chance to do real damage to their fleet. Even if we can't destroy them all, we can disrupt their hive mind enough to slow their advance on Earth. Every hour we buy could be crucial. On the view screen, the first ships of the main Krell fleet became visible, their black hulls forming a wall of darkness against the stars. 10 minutes to optimum firing range, Olivia reported. Laura opened a ship-wide channel. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for our final attack run. No matter what happens next, know that your service has made a difference. We've already done what many thought impossible. Now, let's show the Krell what one Earth ship can really do. The Defiant and its hundreds of quantum projections moved forward to meet the approaching Krell armada, one ship against a fleet, in a battle that would determine the fate of Earth. The Krell fleet filled the view screen of the USS Defiant, hundreds of black ships moving in perfect formation. Captain Laura Bennett studied the tactical display, looking for any weakness in their approach. The quantum projections of her ship surrounded the Defiant in a protective sphere, each one indistinguishable from the real vessel. Time to optimum firing range? Laura asked. 3 minutes, Captain, Olivia Ward replied from the weapons station. Displacement cannons are primed and synchronized across all projections. Laura nodded. Any change in Krell formation? No, Kyle Rivera answered. They're maintaining their current approach vector. It's almost like they don't know which Defiant to target first. That's exactly what we want, Laura said. Zoe, what are their communications telling us? Communications Officer Zoe Miller adjusted her headset. Their signals are chaotic, Captain. The pattern suggests confusion and possibly disagreement. I think different sections of their hive mind are giving contradictory orders. Laura allowed herself a small smile. The plan was working better than they had hoped. The quantum projections weren't just confusing the Krell sensors, they were confusing the Krell mind. Captain, Daniel Powell's voice came through the comm from engineering. The quantum network is starting to destabilize. Power fluctuations are increasing. We have maybe 5 minutes before projections begin to fail. Understood, Laura replied. We only need them to hold for one synchronized attack. She turned to Olivia. Target the center of their formation. If we can disrupt their command ships, the rest may lose coordination. Targeting center mass, Olivia confirmed. 30 seconds to optimal range. Throughout the ship, crew members braced themselves for what might be their final action. In engineering, Daniel and his team worked frantically to keep the quantum network stable for just a few minutes longer. In sickbay, Medical Officer Nathan Cox prepared for potential casualties. On the bridge, Laura's officers focused on their stations with grim determination. 15 seconds, Olivia announced. Laura opened a ship-wide channel. All hands, this is it. No matter what happens next, remember that you've already accomplished the impossible. Earth will know what you did here today. The Krell fleet suddenly began to shift formation. Some ships accelerated while others changed course. They're breaking formation, Kyle reported with surprise. It looks like they're trying to surround us, but they're not coordinating properly. Our quantum projections are causing more havoc than we thought, Laura realized. They can't agree on a strategy. 10 seconds to optimal firing range, Olivia said. Zoe straightened suddenly at her station. Captain, I'm detecting a new signal from the Krell fleet. It's different from anything we've seen before, much stronger and on a frequency we haven't observed. A command override, Laura guessed. Their central intelligence is trying to regain control. 5 seconds, Olivia counted down. Fire when ready, Laura ordered. Firing, Olivia responded, activating the weapon system. In a synchronized action that defied normal physics, all 342 projections of the Defiant fired their displacement cannons simultaneously. Streams of quantum particles converged on the center of the Krell fleet, striking dozens of ships at once. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Krell vessels began to drift aimlessly, their systems disrupted by the quantum assault. Others fired, wildly, hitting their own ships in the confusion. The perfect formation collapsed into chaos. Direct hits on at least 40 vessels, Olivia reported, her voice tight with excitement. There, her words were cut off as the Defiant shuddered, violently. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship. We're taking fire, Kyle shouted. Multiple Krell ships targeting our actual position. How? Laura demanded. The quantum projections should make it impossible to distinguish us from the copies. Daniel's voice came through the comm, strained and urgent. The quantum network is failing, Captain. Power fluctuations must have created a momentary signature difference. They've found us. Another hit rocked the ship, throwing crew members against their stations. Shields at 39%, Olivia reported. They're concentrating their fire on our location. Laura made a split-second decision. Divert all remaining power to the displacement. Cannons. Prepare for one final volley. Captain, Daniel protested. The emitters are already at critical levels. Another synchronized fire could burn them out completely, or worse, cause a cascade failure in the quantum drive. We don't have a choice, Laura replied firmly. If we don't stop them now, they'll destroy us and continue to Earth. Olivia, target their lead vessels. Targeting, Olivia confirmed. Cannons charging. 80%, 90%. The ship rocked again as more Krell weapons found their mark. Shields at 22%, Olivia reported grimly. One more hit like that, and they'll fail completely. Displacement. Cannons at full charge, Daniel announced. Ready to fire. But Captain, there's something else we could try. I'm listening, Laura said, even as she watched more Krell ships orienting toward their position. The resonance cascade, Daniel said. It was theoretical, a last resort option we never hoped to use. If we modify the displacement cannons to target the specific quantum signature of Krell technology, we could create a sympathetic resonance that would cascade through their entire fleet. Laura understood immediately. The resonance cascade had been mentioned in briefings but was considered too dangerous and untested to implement. It would send a precisely calibrated energy wave that would cause Krell technology to vibrate at the molecular level, potentially causing catastrophic structural failure. The risk to the Defiant? She asked. Extreme, Daniel admitted. The cascade could affect our systems too. We might not survive it. Laura looked at the tactical display. The damaged Krell fleet was regrouping, still over 100 ships strong. They were wounded but far from defeated. Do it, she ordered. Configure the displacement cannons for the resonance cascade. Aye, Captain. Reconfiguring now. Laura turned to Kyle. Move us to the center of their formation. If we're going to do this, we need to be in the optimal position. The Defiant surged forward, its remaining quantum projections following suit, directly into the heart of the Krell fleet. They're targeting us from all directions, Olivia warned. Hold course, Laura commanded. Daniel, status of the reconfiguration? Complete, Captain. Resonance cascade ready to initiate. But I have to. Warn you, once started, we can't stop it. Laura nodded. Understood. She opened a ship-wide channel one last time. All hands, secure yourselves for extreme turbulence. What we're about to attempt has never been done before. It's been an honor serving with all of you. She closed the channel and looked at her bridge officers. Initiate the resonance cascade. Daniel activated the modified displacement cannons. Instead of the targeted quantum particles they had fired before, the Defiant now released a precisely calibrated energy wave that propagated outward at tremendous speed. As the wave reached the nearest Krell ships, they began to vibrate visibly. The effect spread from vessel to vessel, gaining strength rather than diminishing. Hulls shuddered, then cracked as the molecular structure of Krell technology responded to the cascading resonance. On the Defiant, systems began to fail as the resonance affected their own technology. Lights flickered, consoles sparked, and the deck plates vibrated beneath the crew's feet. The cascade is working, Daniel reported through static. But our systems are failing. Emergency protocols activating. Throughout the ship, automatic safeguards, engaged, placing crew members in emergency stasis to protect them from the effects of the cascade. The last thing Laura saw before emergency stasis claimed her was the view screen showing Krell ships breaking apart throughout their fleet, not from explosive force but from fundamental structural failure. Then darkness. Laura opened her eyes to the soft beeping of medical equipment. She was in a bed, not in the command chair. Above her, the concerned face of Nathan Cox came into focus. Welcome, Back, Captain, he said with a relieved smile. You've been unconscious for 3 days. The ship? Laura asked, her voice hoarse. Damaged but intact. The emergency protocols saved us. The Krell? Nathan's smile widened. Destroyed. All of them. The resonance cascade tore their fleet apart from the inside out. The Confederation ships found us drifting among the debris. Laura tried to sit up but felt too weak. Earth? Safe, Nathan assured her. You did it, Captain. Your one ship was enough. Word spread quickly that the captain was awake. Within minutes, Daniel, Olivia, Kyle, and Zoe had crowded into the medical bay, all bearing signs of minor injuries but very much alive. We've been summoned to Earth for a full debriefing, Daniel told her, and probably a parade. Laura managed a small laugh. I think I'll skip the parade. Not an option, I'm afraid, Zoe said, holding up a datapad. The news is calling you the saviors of Earth, the ship that faced a fleet and won. Laura looked at her crew, her friends, with pride. We did it together. One ship against a fleet. And it was enough, Olivia finished. Outside the Defiance viewport, Earth shone blue and beautiful against the darkness of space, safe once more.